Several people were killed and dozens remained missing in a landslide that struck a village in the city of Naga, Cebu. Manual search operation is ongoing in the area, but local authorities are looking for other ways to expedite the effort. Gladys Tawabi tells us why.
14 people were declared dead in a landslide that hit Dinaan village in the city of Naga in Cebu Thursday morning. City Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office reports that 8 individuals were injured while scores remaining missing. The eroded soil buried around 24 houses with residents still trapped inside. According to Jules Regner, PIO of PDRRMO Province of Cebu, families in the upland area have been advised to evacuate prior to the tragedy.
Kailangan evacuate ba? Then may mga pababala. That's the problem. Walang full evacuation na nangyari.
Most of the residents in the landslide-hit village are miners allegedly employed by the Apple Land and Quarry Corporation. But the mining company insists they are yet to operate in the area following the completion of necessary permits. Authorities are now racing against time to rescue the remaining residents under the rubble. They are also looking to expedite the search operations by widening the way for heavy equipment to reach the site. A state of calamity has been declared in Tinaan along with 4 other villages, namely Naalad, Kabungahan, Mainit and Pangdan that were also affected by the landslide. Evacuation centers have also been set up to hold residents that were ordered to temporarily leave their homes.
So natay tulo karon nga gi-establish na evac centers. And then ang katong mga casualties ato ana nasa tay grupo ana nga ni coordinate from sa site direksyon sa funeraria and all ato ang assistance and all the expenses ato ang i-cover.
The city government also hopes to find more survivors and assures to extend assistance to the families affected by the tragedy.
I-hope pag yun ko nga daghan pag ma-recover nga mga buhi and then ang tanan nga mga casualties attended sa gyud nato no nga naa sila dignified po na pagkipos nila.
Gladys Tawabi, UNTV News and Rescue, Cebu.
9 volunteer rescuers were killed and 2 others went missing amid ongoing operations in the landslide-hit Itogon, Benguet. Nel Maribuhok tells us why.
Barangay Loacan is one of the areas in Itogon, Benguet that were hit by landslides during the course of Typhoon Ompong. As of Thursday, 9 volunteer rescuers were confirmed dead in Barangay Loacan after a part of the slope eroded while they were searching for victims from a previous landslide in the area. They volunteered to help the authorities searching for family members inside a house that was pressed by the eroded soil.
Nung kuya ko po pumunta dito sa taas, tapos titignan sana yung sasakyan, tapos yung hollow block, tapos bigla pong gumuho.
A group was able to rescue the patriarch of the family and his daughter. The father is now recovering at a hospital but the child eventually died.
Naka-11 na po tayo nahanap out of the total of 15 na nawawala. So may 2 pa tayong hinahanap ngayon. Yung sa mga isang driver ng backhoe and then yung sa rescuer po.
Dominador Siblag Jr. was hesitant to allow his son, 22-year-old Mark Anthony, when he asked to volunteer in the search operation. He recalled how his son insisted in joining the mission despite the unfavorable weather.
Ba't ka nandito? Sabi ko, kalakas ng hangin, ang lakas ng ulan. Magre-rescue kami, sabi niya. Oh, bakit ang re-rescue niyo? Yung mamiyan sa dampingan na tabunan. Sabi nila.
Despite his death, Dominador said he couldn't be more proud of his son.
Sa akin po si Anthony hero po yan.
Janet Dimas Milo also recalled how her husband Hector was willing to risk his life to help in the operation. Hector was a spotter for signs of life or bodies of victims in the landslide area.
Pero nung nandun na sila sa gitna ng kalsada, doon na rin pumutok yung gumuho yung lupa. Kung talaga may mga nangangailangan na tulong, lagi siyang handang tumulong. Ang sabi nga niya, sa pagtulong, hindi naman natin yan nagagawa palagi. Pero kung talagang will mo na tumulong, gagawin mo lahat ng makakaya mo para tulungan yung mga nangangailangan.
But for Calvin Melchor, the long wait is agonizing because until now, the body of his father who served as the backhoe operator has not been found yet. The backhoe, however, was already recovered. Calvin is determined to use the same backhoe to recover his father's remains.
Patuloy pa rin ang operasyon po ng paghahanap sa tatay ko kasi mahirap, masakit. Yun yung nararamdaman namin ngayon, mga pamilya niya.
The search and retrieval operations are ongoing in various parts of Itogon, Benguet, where landslide incidents are recorded. Nel Maribuho, UNTV News and Rescue, Itogon, Benguet.
The Davao City government allots 20 million pesos worth of assistance for 9 areas that were hit by Typhoon Ompong. Meanwhile, over 100 linemen from 14 electric cooperatives have traveled to Cagayan province, which was heavily ravaged by Ompong. Diane Ventura tells us why.
The Davao City Council has approved a resolution on Tuesday seeking to allot more than 20 million pesos worth of calamity assistance for areas that were heavily pummeled by Typhoon Ompong. The said aid will be appropriated for 9 areas that were under the state of calamity, including Cagayan, Isabela, Abra, Benguet, Ilocos Sur and Norte, Kalinga and Tuguegarao City, and the municipality of Mayoyaw in Ifugao Province. According to Lindon Ancahas, the officer in charge of the Davao City Disaster Risk Reduction Management Office, the city government has enough funds left in case of emergency.
Still have ample amount doon sa nabilin kay di mo po nato pwede i-compromise ang Davao City. So gibalanse na po nato na sir na di po na magbilin po taog reserve para sa city in case.
Davao Central 911 also deployed several of its personnel to Isabela to help in the ongoing relief operations. More than 100 skilled linemen from 14 electric cooperatives in Region 3 also traveled to Cagayan Province to help restore power lines and facilities that bore the brunt of Ompong's hurricane force winds.
Ating katuwang po natin ang National Electrification Administration po dito at saka po ang PhilReca. Nagkasama-sama po kami para po magkatulong-tulong kami na mapailawan yung inyong pong area.
A report from electric cooperative states that over 1,400 electrical posts in northern Luzon were felled by the typhoon. Around 79 towns remain without power while the electricity in 101 areas has been restored. The group of linemen deployed to Cagayan aims to restore full power connection in the province next month. Diane Ventura, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
President Rodrigo Duterte slams former Audit Commissioner Heidi Mendoza on the issue of disaster auditing regulations, saying she cannot lecture him about procurement process. Rosalie Cos tells us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte criticized the statements of former Commission on Audit Commissioner Heidi Mendoza during a speech in Malacanang Wednesday. The president said he will not allow Mendoza to lecture him about procurement procedures. The heated exchange between the two began when the president told local officials not to heed COA regulations after Ilocos Norte Governor Amy Marcos reported that the state auditor denied their request for cash advance for the purchase of construction materials intended for rebuilding houses damaged by the typhoon. Mendoza posted on her Facebook that the disaster audit guide has been in effect since the time of Typhoon Ondoy, wherein the local government is allowed to spend up to 500,000 pesos in aid of calamity victims without having to go through a public bidding. Duterte said he knows more about the procurement process than Mendoza does.
Hindi niya ako maliktura niya because I was ahead of her by a mile dyan sa understanding the nitty-gritties. Minsan yung circular. You convict a person by a circular. Not even by a law. It's a violation of circular. A circular, what is its dimension? That it reach the level of both the national and local? Umaabot ba sa atin yan pagsabi sa demanda ng circular?
The chief executive said he is only defending government officials who cannot defend themselves against allegations of procurement irregularities amid the typhoon.
I was speaking of the people who cannot defend themselves properly. I was not criticizing. So yung doon sa Benguet, sabi nitong because they have to comply with certain regulations, sabi ko, to hell with COA. Do not listen to them. Just do what I'm telling you to do. I will answer them.
Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue.
The Department of Environment and Natural Resources lays down the guidelines and measures for the reopening of Boracay Island next month. JL Asayo will tell us why.
The countdown begins for the much-anticipated reopening of Boracay Island on October 26. 36 days from now, Boracay Island will once again welcome its local and foreign visitors after a total closure to give way to its major rehabilitation that started 6 months ago. The DENR study shows that the population carrying capacity of the island is only 60,000 individuals and that waste generated on the island was at 90 tons per day. To minimize this, authorities will be stricter so as not to exceed the 60,000 limit and to ensure that proper waste disposal is observed. In order to closely monitor those who are wishing to reside in the island, a control card system is suggested to be implemented. The island has a carrying capacity of 19,000 visitors at a given time. Tourists must pass through a service operator to determine if the island has reached its limit.
Once we hit the critical mark, then that's a red flag for us already to say that they have to be able to present their reservations for the hotels that are compliant, so that we can advise the hotels that they're already over the limit.
Part of the road widening project is to lessen the number of tricycles and other mode of transportations, which is now at 3,000, into half. E-trikes will also be seen on the road in place of the old gasoline and diesel-operated tricycles. Strict regulation of one vehicle to one hotel will also be implemented. To seriously monitor that these regulations are consistently being observed, a satellite national office of the DENR will be built on the island. The DENR will also check the performance and operations of the compliant hotels when it comes to their proper waste disposal activities. Prior to the October 26 reopening, officers of the DENR and the Department of Tourism will conduct a dry run on October 15 to see to it that it will be all systems go on the day of the soft opening. JL Asayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
More than 12 million kilograms of trash are generated from households in Metro Manila every day, which slips to waterways. May Bermudez tells us why.
Before the year ends, 4 to 5 typhoons are still expected to hit the country. One of the areas that experienced the wrath of the past typhoon is the Manila Bay area that was hit by waves that reached higher than an average person's height. Apart from this, the typhoon left its marks, such as the piles of trash in the area. As our news team roamed along Ross Boulevard shoreline earlier, we were welcomed not by a peaceful sea, but by a powerful smell brought by the tons of garbage.
Konti ngayon kasi wala na yung bagyo. Kapag may bagyo lang naman, maraming kalat dyan.
Based on estimates of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources or DENR, more than a 12 million kilogram volume of waste deposits traverse from houses to waterways every day.
So we have 12.8 million kilograms of trash generated every day. Ganun po kalala ang basura na nasa Metro Manila.
Masakit, siyempre pangit. Pangit tignan. Kaya lalo kung may bisita, nakakaya.
Aside from being an eyesore scenario, this is also a form of serious threat to health.
Nag-invite din po kami ng representative from DOH para yung sa health hazard po. Kung madumi ang estero nyo, maaapektuhan din kayo. Hindi lang kalikasan na maaapektuhan. Ang mga tao mismo na malapit dun sa estero.
But some scavengers in Manila Bay have expressed fear as authorities apprehend them while they go about their work, which for them is their way of helping in the Manila Bay cleanup.
Hindi kami natatakot sa bagyo eh. Natatakot kami sa mga panguhuli ng police, panguhuli ng mga DWPH. Doon kami natatakot eh.
On Saturday, September 22, the DENR together with some groups will hold an International Coastal Cleanup Day for a simultaneous effort in clearing up bodies of water such as seas, rivers, lakes, and waterways. DENR calls for the public's participation to somehow lessen the effects of calamities which naturally enter the country.
So cleaning up is not solely responsibility of the people in the environment sector. It is the duty of everybody because everybody is living in this world. We have only one Mother Earth to care.
Mai Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The residents of Naga City, Ilocos Sur are now back on their feet after weathering Typhoon Ompong, which is the strongest storm so far to hit the Philippines this year. Let's discover the whys and hows of Ilocano resiliency in Aiko Miguel's report.
Despite Ompong's devastating effects, the Ilocanos held onto their old adage, "Paspas takder" or rise fast in English, to help them get back on their feet. In a matter of days, residents cleared the traces of the destructive typhoon in the city, known for its preserved examples of Spanish colonial towns. The village is open 24 hours where visitors can freely explore the area that depicts a part of the Philippine history. Old and huge stone houses with windows made of capiz shells can be seen around the village, and if tourists are up for it, they may also stay in some of the old houses that offer accommodations for a few days.
As may isang Ilocano, syempre naragsaklata kasi kailangan tayo latamot iti ag-move on to be strong, di kiti paspasamak ti panagbiag.
Digna Piano owns a souvenir shop in Vigan. She offers a bright smile to tourists every time, reflecting her optimism after the storm.
Ang panunot dati positive, handa nga pampanik, kasjay.
Visitors also should not leave the province without taking a bite of the famous Ilocos Empanada, which is made of grated papaya, egg, and Ilocos longanisa stuffed inside rice flour dough. This can be bought from empanada vendors around like Rebecca Pisalbo.
Rino babae kami, kurida asawa mi mitlag sapsapol, tulangan mi asawa mi tap na may tibiti masapol tanak ni.
Masarap talaga, oo, hindi ka mapapahiya na i-recommenda.
One should also taste other Ilocano dishes like bagnet, pinakbet, pinakdakan, igado, and bagnet with tomatoes, fish sauce, and onions. Visitors may also take a crash course in history when touring vegan from the drivers of Kalesa or horse-drawn kalash.
Kuya, ang kutsero ba required kayong kabisaduhin yung mga historical kayo, pati yung mga dates?
Opo ma'am, para para mayroon din kayong matutunan.
Kalesa, Binting, Nesa, Topnabading, Bagyo, Manila.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Ilocos Sur.
Manila Mayor Joseph Estrada suspends classes in all levels, both in public and private schools tomorrow, September 21. This is in anticipation of the numerous and massive demonstration that will be held in line with the 46th anniversary of the declaration of martial law in the Philippines. The Manila Police District recommended the suspension of classes to ensure the safety and security of the public, specifically the students. The Department of Agriculture is looking to implement a ban on the importation of fancy rice next year. Let's find out why from Ray Pelayo's exclusive report.
Following the official return of the National Food Authority under the supervision of the Department of Agriculture, Secretary Manny Piñol checked on the prices of basic goods, particularly rice, at the Commonwealth Market on Thursday. During the inspection, Piñol expressed relief that the traders have complied as agreed on the price of several vegetables such as onions. Red and white onions now sell at 50 to 60 pesos per kilogram from the previous prices of 100 to 120 per kilogram.
Ito daw hanggang 60 pwede lang ibenta. So mababa pa doon sa ating pinagkasunduan na dapat ibenta na ng 65 pesos.
However, he expresses dismay over the price of well-milled rice, which still stands at 55 pesos per kilogram. The Secretary says his priority now, as the new chair of the NFA Council, is to solve the rice mess and lower the price by increasing the volume of NFA rice in the market. Piñol says he already has the president's go signal to push through with more importation of rice to full load all NFA's outlets in the country.
Initially, Sec, mga ilan po ang may pala na ba ako ilang metric tons?
Basta sabi ng Pangulo, punuin ko yung bodega. Pupunuin ko yung bodega. 12 billion pa yung pera ng NFA.
Secretary Piñol adds that aside from increasing the supply, he will also propose a ban on the importation of fancy rice next year.
What is happening is instead of bringing down the price, yung imported na bigas ngayon na fancy rice, jasmine, long grains, are actually being sold at as much as 58 pesos per kilo. So nasaan yung murang presyo?
Ray Pelayo, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Commission on Higher Education has removed the provision in the Free College Education Laws implementing rules and regulations that requires college students to render work for their schools so long as they are benefiting from the free tuition law. During House plenary debates into the proposed 2019 budget, ACT Teachers Representative Antonio Thio made a motion to defer the approval of CHED's budget as the agency cannot make a commitment to delete the assailed provision. CHED officer in charge Prospero de Vera earlier said the students will have to work simple tasks for their schools in exchange of free tuition like filing books in the library or planting for campus beautification. But Thio argued that the return of service agreement is not provided for in the Free Higher Education Law, adding that this curtails the constitutional right of Filipinos to accessible higher education. CHED later on agreed with Thio and scrapped the said provision. Malacanang dismisses as mere sham and leftist propaganda the recent ruling by the International People's Tribunal that found President Rodrigo Duterte guilty of human rights violations. Rosalie Cos tells us why.
Malacanang just shrugs off the guilty verdict handed to President Rodrigo Duterte by the International People's Tribunal on charges of human rights violations. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says the said tribunal that recently convened in Brussels, Belgium, is comprised of propaganda body by the left-leaning groups.
That's a sham decision. It has no official sanction. The validity of the findings will depend on the credibility of the tribunals. I'm in this field of law. I do not know who sat there. They appear to be a propaganda body of the international left, if not the, and therefore, we set it aside as being a useless piece of propaganda against the government.
IPT 2018 convened this week to hear cases filed against Duterte on his alleged violations against political, civil, economic, social rights, international humanitarian law, and others. The IPT findings will reportedly be submitted to the United Nations Human Rights Council, European Parliament, and International Criminal Court in The Hague, Netherlands.
We heard the testimonies of witnesses, many of them heart-wrenching, traumatic, and horrific. Experts and resource persons, as well as the digest of wealth of data, information, facts, analysis, and other evidence presented and submitted before us, and we have made an initial analysis and evaluation. It is our consensus, therefore, that the defendants Duterte, Trump, and all other defendants are guilty. Guilty of all the charges specified in the indictment, and as such, they are accountable for crimes against humanity.
The National Union of People's Lawyers says the tribunal is initiated by the people to seek redress when traditional institutions are either limited or skewed. NUPL President Edre Olalia also said in a statement that the IPT is a unique arena or platform for the urgent process of establishing the truth. He also stood firm that the IPT observes due process and defendants are notified and given the opportunity to participate and defend themselves. The IPT is also composed of panel of eminent jurors of different disciplines, and the proceedings are conducted in an open and public trial. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
Malacanang assures that it will treat with utmost respect whatever the Office of the Ombudsman will decide on the case against Communications Assistant Secretary Mocha Uson. Deaf advocates filed a complaint against Uson and her friend blogger Drew Olivar after another controversial video of them surfaced on social media. The video showed Olivar parodying the sign language while Mocha Uson can be heard laughing at his antics. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says they will abide by the Office of the Ombudsman should it rule to dismiss Uson. But for the meantime, President Rodrigo Duterte has not issued any order yet against Uson related to the recent controversy.
Let's wait for the decision of the Ombudsman dahil meron na namang ganyang complaint. The Ombudsman can already order the dismissal of anyone in government because it is both an administrative and a criminal case. Igagalang po ng palasyo ang proseso. Kung sinabi ng Ombudsman si Baken, hindi po natin tututulan yan.
Election and security officials are implementing a tight watch over paraphernalias and polling precincts that are set to be used for the special barangay and sangguniang kabataan elections in Marawi City on September 22. Robbie De Guzman will tell us why.
The Commission on Elections assures that it's all systems go for the Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan special elections in Marawi City on Saturday. According to City Election Officer 4 Attorney Michael Ignace, at least 76,000 ballots were printed for Marawi. Of this number, 51,000 ballots are for the barangay while 25,000 are for the SK elections. These ballots will be distributed to 33 voting centers around the 96 barangays of Marawi beginning Wednesday.
Dumating na po yung ating mga official ballots at ito ngayon ay sinesecure na ng ating kapulisan at mga sundalo. Kompleto na po ito at saka tayo po ay handa na po sa eleksyon sa parating na Sabado.
COMELEC is also coordinating with Lanao del Sur Electric Cooperative to ensure that no power outage will be experienced on the day of the polls. The Commission also monitored no threats to the special polls, though authorities have ramped up security following recent blasts in Midsayap, General Santos City, and Isulan Sultan Kudarat. The poll body has also yet to receive reports on violence pertaining to rivalry among local politicians, as some bets have decided to withdraw their candidacy to give way for their kins.
So doon pa lang na level ay mayroon na po silang arrangement, settlement na at least yung iba ay mag-withdraw para at least wala ng gulo sa barangay or sa pamilya nila. At mainam po ito. Maganda po yan na mga development.
The COMELEC also established several voting centers for the 24 barangays that were inside the ground zero and were totally ruined after the Marawi siege. These voting centers are the Multipurpose Hall Area 4 of Barangay Sagonsongan, Marawi Central Elementary Pilot School, and Dansalan Integrated School, Bito Elementary School in Barangay Bito Buadi Parba, and Rorogagos Elementary School in Barangay Rorogagos proper. Voters can start voting at 7 a.m. until 3 p.m. on September 22. Robbie De Guzman, UNTV, News and Rescue.
An MMDA traffic law enforcer is now facing possible removal from post after getting caught using illegal drugs. Meanwhile, another administrative staff of the agency might also be sacked after she was caught extorting money from traffic law enforcer and street sweeper applicants. Joan Nano tells us why.
An MMDA traffic law enforcer was caught in the act while using shabu inside a comfort room within the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority Central Office in Makati City. In a press conference earlier, MMDA General Manager Jojo Garcia identified the said traffic law enforcer as Romel Aluyen, who has been working at the MMDA for 15 years. According to Garcia, another employee reported to them that he saw Aluyen using illegal drugs inside the comfort room.
May pinapunta ako mga tao. May kami dito, may mga intelligence department. Mag-isa raw siya. Ang hirap kausap kahit anong gusto gagawin ko. Ang hirap pag-usap pala sa sa may tama.
Meanwhile, another employee from the administrative department of the agency was also arrested after she extorted money from those who are applying to be traffic enforcers and street sweepers in MMDA. She was identified as Luisa Bon, who is working in the agency for almost 22 years. In this video, it can be seen that the paper was handed to Bon under the table that is believed to contain 1,000 pesos that she has extorted from a certain applicant. The MMDA officials immediately conducted an entrapment operation against Bon.
Talagang ang lakas na loob, kala niya hindi kami nagmamatsyag. Nakipagtawaran pa sa text, ha? Nasa akin yung mga text message. Hinihinga niya 1,500. Tumawag yon, ma'am, 300 ang pera ko. Mangungutang lang ako. Ay, hindi ka. Magte-training na, gusto mapaabot. O 1,000.
MMDA Chairman Danilo Lim has ordered the immediate removal of Aluyan and Bon in the office after the incident. The MMDA is planning to charge the two with administrative, extortion, and grave misconduct cases. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Makati City.
The Philippine National Police Anti-Cybercrime Group taps giant telecommunication companies in the country amid mounting complaints on an extortion scheme that uses robocalls. Leia Ilagan tells us why.
A number of telephone subscribers have complained about receiving robocall or a phone call that uses computerized auto dialer to deliver a pre-recorded message.
Paalala, ito ang Departamento ng Pulisya ng Lungsod para sa iyong kaalaman na kasalukuyang nasangkot ka sa isang nakabinbing kaso ng illegal na droga. Pindutin ang number 1 upang marinig muli ang mensahe at number 9 upang ilipat ang iyong tawag sa opisyal ng pulisya. Salamat.
In this robocall that allegedly came from the Philippine National Police, a message recording of a female voice is urging the recipient to press the number 9 to talk to a police officer about their alleged involvement in drug case. The person posing as officer on the other line will allegedly ask the victim to pay a certain amount of money or to divulge their sensitive personal information in order to clear their name from the list of narcos. The same robocall was received by the head sector relations of Globe Telecommunications.
Yun, it was the recording. Yung female voice telling me to press 1 or press 9. Yun, nakatanggap na ako.
Na-involved daw kayo sa, nakasama kayo sa tokhang list?
Sa isang kasong droga.
But the PNP clarifies its upland Tukang uses no robocall, but rather police officers personally visit the residence of the person suspected of being involved in illegal drug use or trading. The PNP Anti-Cybercrime Group says this is a type of telephone fraudulent scheme that evolved from the text method used by scammers to extort money. Due to mounting complaints, the PNP ACG reached out to the management of giant telecommunications company in the country to discuss and agree on ways to counter the fraudulent scam.
We can alert our internal fraud teams and we will discuss and see how this can be mitigated or prevented.
Recommendation ko is to come up with a advisory right away to our customers about this. Parang hindi siya new scheme siya, pero old fraud method to.
The PNP ACG also calls on the public to remain vigilant and to immediately report to authorities when they encounter such or similar fraudulent scams.
Doon sa mga nabibiktima, kung pwede po mag-report po sila sa Anti-Cybercrime Group po. Open naman po tayo 24 hours. Then doon po sa mga naka-receive pa lang po ng tawag na hindi naman po nabiktima, hanggat maaari po, huwag nyo na lang pong sagutin yung...
Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue, Krame.
Members of the House Makabayan Bloc believe that the pork barrel remains alive amid House deliberations on the 2019 proposed national budget. Rosalie Cos tells us why.
The Makabayan Bloc questioned the realigned 51.7 billion pesos found in the 2019 proposed national budget. Though it was distributed to different agencies like the Departments of Education, Agriculture, state universities and colleges, NDRRMC and DPWH, ACT Teachers Party List Representative Antonio Thio says these funds are still pork barrel because there's no clear budgetary allocations for it. He also questioned the 31 billion pesos allocation for DPWH.
Sa panahon ngayon, between now and hanggang BICAM pa yan, no, maghahabol ngayon para maging line item projects yung at least 31 billion na yon. So diyan napapasok yung paano hahatiin yan, di ba? So yung usapin ng redistribution ng pork sa ilalim ng bagong leadership ng House.
But House Majority Leader Rolando Andaya assured in a statement that the approved amendments in the budget will be itemized in the coming deliberations. Budget Secretary Benjamin Jokno also denied claims that there is pork barrel in the 2019 proposed national budget.
Anything that the House will do right now, I won't comment at all because I know that this is a long process.
Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue.
Senator J.V. Ejercito believes Congress should once again tackle the granting of emergency powers to the Department of Transportation and its attached agencies. Meanwhile, the Senate Subcommittee on Finance has approved the 76.1 billion 2019 proposed budget of the Department of Transportation. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
Senate Finance Subcommittee Chair Senator J.V. Ejercito wants to tackle and push for the granting of emergency powers to the Department of Transportation to Congress. This is to fast-track the infrastructure projects on the Build project of the government.
I would, ako, my own opinion, ako malaking maitutulong yan. Kasi the least we want to happen is a delay in any project. Kasi nga, yung mga injunction, yung mga right of pay problems, procurement talagang matagal and I don't think we can afford any longer, especially doon sa mga infrastructure, massive infra and railways, modern airports kasi 30 years na tayong behind in terms of infrastructure development.
Meanwhile, the Senate Committee on Finance has approved the 76.1 billion pesos 2019 proposed budget of the DOTR. This is 89% higher compared to its 40.2 billion pesos budget last 2018. 447 million pesos of the budget will be allotted to the PUV modernization program of the government. The committee also scrutinized the upgrading of airports in the country. DOTR should set all provincial airports into night-rated airports to entice tourism and help improve the country's economy.
The only way we can decongest NAIA is to have to upgrade all the other provincial airports to night capability operation. The whole DOTR family, malaki ang papel na gagampanan nila in the situation right now. It is all about economic development.
According to Secretary Arthur Tugade, part of their proposed plans is the widening of provincial airports.
Talagang ang handicap po dyan, pag yung runway mo tutumbok sa bundok o tutumbok sa dagat. Pero kung flat, increase nyo na yung runway, increase nyo yung wind to allow for a operation of wider aircraft.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
Up next on Wine News. Alibaba founder Jack Ma rose back on pledge to create 1 million US jobs. Malacanang dismisses as mere sham decision the International People's Tribunal that found President Rodrigo Duterte guilty of human rights violations.
Bakit ba ikaw nga iisip ko at di na mawala-wala pa?
And Wishcovery brings hope to aspiring singers of Central Luzon. And those are the reasons behind the stories in the second part of our newscast. Wine News returns with William Thio. I'm Angela Lagunsad. Good evening.